Everyone, and welcome to the Dice Commando YouTube channel. I'm Andrew, with you here as always. This is the Commando Cast, a video cast about all things Star Wars Destiny. This video and others like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. Please show your support with a like and subscribe, and be sure to hit the bell notification icon so you don't miss any new videos. If you want to get involved with the channel, consider becoming a channel member. There are many benefits to channel membership, including access to our Discord, exclusive deck tech and strategy videos, and the opportunity to help create channel content. I want to sincerely thank all our channel members, as I truly couldn't do this without your support. You guys rock. Go Commando. Of all the team comps, and potential pairings hit the game since the drop of Unlikely Heroes, and there are a ton of them to be sure. One such pairing sets itself apart as being top-notch design on all fronts, both for theme and for design. Of course, I'm referring to Baze Chirrut. Bringing similar vibes in almost every way to FFG's capstone design team comp, Reylo, this deck hits the mark on nearly every level. Now, as with everything in this game that's actually designed for theme first, it is probably relegated to tier 1.5 at best. But we accept that, and most of us in the Destiny community can enjoy it for what it is. So in tonight's video, we're embracing our own versions of Guy Love and deep diving into ARH's Baze Chirrut. Folks, welcome back to Dice Commando and the Commando Cast. Thanks for tuning in on this Destiny Friday, also Black Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, at least for those of us in the U.S. And for those of us not, who didn't celebrate the holiday yesterday, I hope work went well yesterday, and I hope it's going well today. But no, seriously, thanks for tuning in. I hope that the holidays are going well for you or your family, or if you're not on holiday, I still hope things are going well for you. So yeah, tonight talking Baze Chirrut. This is a deck that I've been having a ton of fun with since release. I was able to spoil Chirrut. That's because Rock Control basically found out that I was a huge fan of the guys, right? So he gave me Chirrut, and then they held Baze back. So it's something that we were looking forward to for almost a month now, right? If you actually go back, it's funny how time flies, right? But this deck is really good. It's really, and well, when I say it's really good, I mean it's an awesome deck, right? Let's put it that way, right? Because that can mean different things for different people. But what it means for me is that it's good enough that I can hang and I have a lot of fun playing it. And it feels like real Destiny. And, I think Rock Control and the design team did a fantastic job with this. They were really channeling their inner Reylo, right? I kind of not implied, I actually specifically said that in the intro. And I mean, it does. It basically channels kind of everything that was good about Reylo in terms of having natural synergies, wanting to pair them with each other, being good in its own way. This is a little different, of course, in that, it's not mono, but it is mono in that it's only hero. So like from a card pool standpoint, being blue-red versus, only blue, but it be roughly the same card pool. I mean, it's a little more, I guess, but roughly the same card pool. But it's really the synergy of these guys that make them fun. But as with Reylo, it's one of their weaknesses. When the other one goes down, you have less to do, right? So you really come out swinging and lose by and large, you come out swinging and you lose momentum as the game goes on, which isn't necessarily true of a lot of decks, and quite frankly is its probably biggest weakness, right? So Chirrut you guys can see his dice. We know at this point like what these two guys do, but power action on Chirrut is turn one of your character dice showing a blank to a side of one or to any side if you spot Baze. And then Baze, aside from that Guardian, which does not suck, spend one resource or spot Chirrut to resolve one of your dice showing a modifier as if it did not have a modifier, right? So these are, again, they're very well-designed power actions in that they're not completely useless when the partner goes down. They're still usable, but they're not as good, right? You want to keep both of them together. And if you look at both of these guys in a vacuum by themselves, probably aren't going to be playing these guys outside of the Baze Chirrut pairing, right? Whereas I do feel like that, you could, but by and large, we saw R3P2 and we saw some Kylo builds, but like by and large, we didn't see much of Rey and Kylo outside of Rey and Kylo either, right? So, and that's not a bad thing. Like it's not a bad thing to have this auto pairing, and they're good. And yeah, probably the right thing to do is have it in that tier 1.5 range. As many of you guys who've played all of these type of games before. And heck, we've been playing Destiny now for, 5 some years? Actually, yeah, we're closing in on December 2021, which means we're almost 5 years from, so we've been playing Destiny for 5 years now, right? Anyway, what we always see in these games is that the games devolve into basically what's more efficient, right? It becomes just a race to the bottom of efficiency. And, decks that have theme like this tend to get lost. Theme decks tend to get lost because they, you just want to pack in the good stuff. And Destiny is actually, probably of all the games I've ever played, Destiny is actually more susceptible to that because Destiny has really 2 layers of randomness, right? With the dice and the card draw. And, if you can find ways to do damage without dice, or if you can eliminate dice and the need to roll, right? Droids or Ewoks. You guys know what I'm saying, right? Destiny is especially susceptible, especially impacted of that race to the bottom of efficiency, and theme tends to suffer in that. And that's why a deck like this is something I really truly appreciate in this game. I think they, you look back, Jyn Cassian, right? Fantastic. They fit together on theme. Reylo was, again, it was their capstone. I don't think FFG could have designed anything better on Reylo. It was fantastic. And Baze Chirrut, I think, is going to stand for a long time as ARH's capstone designed team, right? I think, I'm not saying that they haven't designed anything good to this. Again, don't put words in my mouth here. I'm not saying just because I think this is their capstone design doesn't mean I don't think they've also done some pretty cool design things. Please don't interpret it that way, right? But when I look at this team and the back and forth of it and the balance of it, I think they just knocked it out of the freaking park, right? So part of talking about these guys today isn't just me basically, part of it is. I think they're really awesome. I'm enjoying playing it. They have a lot of really good things going for them. But I also want to talk about some of their weaknesses because that can kind of help us in the deck building. That the primary threat of this deck is that it kind of upends one of the fundamental things that we hold dear in Destiny, which is remove the black sides, right? If you have a 3 modifier out there, it's worthless unless you have a base side. And with these guys, that's not true. And with these guys, if you have a blank sitting out there on a character die, you can't just ignore it, right? These guys come at you from all levels. It's fantastic, right? Everything in its own way is a threat, and I absolutely love it. The Guardian on Baze is perfect. It's of course thematic design is the way they threw it on there, but it really triggers up a lot of things that can work with him. Heroic Protector, yeah, and then they've got the whole red-blue healing thing. I still think Chirrut probably needs to be your target. But there's certainly an argument to be going for Baze, especially when he's sucking up damage all day. So, and you know what? You can't, there were varying schools of thought on whether you kill Rey first or whether you kill Kylo first. I always went for Kylo first, but that doesn't mean that there weren't games where I saw it the other way around, right? So, it's just, I'm really happy with these guys. I'm really having a lot of fun playing with them. Again, you guys know I focused in on Bo, put a lot of my energy there with all her different pairings. But this is, I think, going to be one of my, go-to decks when we're pulling out the second deck to play, right? So yeah, top notch. Now, I did speak that they have more than a few weaknesses, right? Which is what's going to relegate them to that tier 1. The first, we kind of already talked about the first one, which is when one goes down, life becomes way more difficult and things actually accelerate downwards, right? And that's true for many decks, but not to the same extent, right? And I think to that end, another issue that they have is the mixed color really makes them want to, most of the upgrades that I find myself looking at in the deck, most of the upgrades are red. And these guys have a real problem with ramp because when you roll them out and you hit a modified side, you rarely re-roll a modified side, right? Which a lot of time would turn into money. The other thing is Binds doesn't do a ton of work in the deck because you're not playing, like, Binds is a great card, like no question about it, but when you're playing primarily blues, it's great because it works on everything, but when you're playing primarily reds, Binds isn't great. So basically you're relegated to Merchant, or you just hope you play a bunch of ones and roll Hot Fire, right? And that's generally not a great recipe to winning consistently in Destiny, right? I mean, it's not. So that is one problem that I think we really need to work to solve with them, is kind of how to figure out, because 12 used to be good, but it's not anymore, right? In terms of health. So you can't get a lot of the money for being the highest health person, and so on. But that portion fits back into what I was saying, is one goes down more difficulty, you have a hard time ramping, and like damage output is not, in some matches, damage output is not irrelevant these days, right? So it's not uncommon to lose one of these guys by the end of round 2 or early round 3. And then if that stalls out and you've only got 1 or 2 dice on your living character, that's probably additional dice. That's probably not going to end well, right? So that ramp thing really fits into what I said, is like, if you're going to lose efficiency and all of a sudden you have to spend $1 per round to resolve Baze's +3 or whatever other modifier you've got out there, things start getting more difficult. So you lose Binds, you only really have Merchant. You do have Armory, which helps a little bit, but it's only a one-time use, right? So it's essentially like a logistics, effectively, right? So yeah. And I already talked about, these guys, by and large, they don't really have much of a place outside the pairing. We'll see, outside of their auto pairing. You look at Chirrut for 12, 15, like his dice are pretty legit, but like there's probably other better characters that you'd rather pair with for like a 14, 16, or you know what I mean? So I think both of these guys pretty much are relegated to where they are. Kind of one random comment on the ramp thing that I forgot to mention as I'm looking at my notes. I do think that they should have, I think Baze may have been, I think this team may have been more playable if it was, Baze's PA was spend or deal yourself an indirect, right? And I also feel like it would have fit more on theme with them too, because like, right, you guys saw Rogue One. You remember what happened at the end? He just like walked across the field blasting death troopers everywhere, right? And he didn't really care if he got shot a couple times doing. I think that kind of would have been, instead of the one resource, which is something that these guys have a hard time with. Maybe if it was deal yourself an indirect, right? Basically make it a 3-for-1 indirect, right? I think that would have, I think it would have fit. Again, that's not a design shot at all. I've been here praising it all day. But I do think that would have helped them a lot, because these guys really do struggle with cash, at least in the current environment. The other problem these guys have, and we were talking about upgrades, is they are relegated primarily to red upgrades. There are, Chirrut staff, of course, right? But like, by and large, you're playing the red redeploys. And maybe holdout blaster or whatever, right? But you see my point. And Westar, of course, when you're thinking, oh, red 2-drop redeploys, because that's all I can pay for, like Westar pops to the top of your mind because that card's phenomenal. But these guys are a little too slow to even get the Westar ping, right? It's not that it doesn't happen, but that is one. That's a significant thing that they lose, is if they're too slow to take advantage of one of the best red redeploys in the game, that hurts them, right? That hurts them. And then you're looking at something like a holdout blaster or whatever it may be, which is fine of itself, but then you've got the 2-for-1 pay side on that, right? Because holdout's 2-for-1 plus 2, right? And like, you definitely want to play Westar over that, but then you lose on the Westar ping. So yeah. And then, this is the obvious statement award of the cast, but one of the biggest weaknesses they have is that they're not yellow. You look at, like, do you know what card would be really good with these guys? It's really good with freaking everything, but the card that would be really good with these guys is Bow Staff, right, out of UH. These guys would kill for that card. So here's my proposal for whoever's in charge of set 5, ARH5, whatever it's going to be. Likely heroics, I don't know, whatever it's going to be, right? These guys need a plot. These guys need a specific plot that somehow maybe it teams up with them, whatever. But point is, like, these guys were rogue in of themselves, right? Like, they're partisans. There's a very easy argument to be made that, like, they could be yellow in some fashion. So here's what I want. I want a plot that lets these guys bring X number of yellow cards to their deck. And I don't want it to be one of the shuffle in afterwards things, because I don't want it to throw off, right? There's a very delicate balance here with the points in terms of mill, right? And I get that, and I get it's been tested, so I don't want to mess with that. And that's why I want it to be more of like an Infus Nest type thing, like bring them to the game, not shuffle in afterwards, right? Because I don't want to like increase the curve on mill. Don't get me wrong, I'll take an advantage against mill all day. But my point is I don't want to literally shuffle things up, right? I just think that it would be really cool if, given kind of their theme, right? Because that's what we're going for here. I think it would be really cool if these guys could bring some number, maybe 4, maybe 2, whatever it may be, right? But give these guys something that lets them bring a couple yellow cards to the game. Because right now, yellow is insane, right? I mean, not being yellow is these guys' biggest of all their weaknesses. Not being yellow is probably the biggest one, and there's some stuff that actually I think would fit thematically, right, for both these guys. But maybe me throwing in bow staff. I mean, if I could throw in bow, like you'd absolutely take bow staff on these guys, right? You absolutely would. So, and maybe that's busted. I don't know. But anyway, that's just my idea, my request on how we could really up these guys up a notch, is to have a weapon that can resolve as both sides, right? Because, I mean, Awakening's back, right? It's very clear why Awakening's, well, for Zeb too, I suppose, but it's very clear overall why Awakenings was brought back. Great card, absolutely on board. But if you don't draw it early, you can only do one of your modifiers. And sometimes you roll 2 or 3 modifiers with these guys. And sure, in any deck where you roll modifiers, but remember, these guys are specifically designed to roll modifiers. Or not specifically designed to do that, but they're specifically designed to account for rolling modifiers, which is why their dice have been designed in the way they are. So if you get one of those bad draws where, okay, now I can't ramp, I have to play Awakenings, I can't ramp if I do, otherwise I get my ramp card, but then so anyway, you guys get what I'm saying, right? There's a lot of challenges that these guys face that I think a couple yellow cards could work. And I realize that anybody could be like, oh, well, I'm a mono blue player. I'd love a couple yellow cards. I get it. Fair enough. But I think that for these guys specifically, I think it would actually be on theme, right? I mean, they were working essentially on Jedi. I mean, they weren't working with Saw and his people, but they were pretty yellow, right? Like they were doing some scoundrelly things. Like Baze apparently was like a freelance assassin or whatever. Like these guys should be able to bring some yellow to the table. So anyway, that's just my take. But that was way too long on my design proposal for the next set. But no, I'm really a huge fan of these guys. They're a lot of fun to play. What I like most about it is how you can kind of dirtle with them a little bit and make your opponent have to make the decisions. The flip side to dirtling is that you're never in front. And there's a lot of reasons on these guys that you want to be in front. And in fact, one of their cards is specifically designed to helping you get your guys out. But then when you have a Guardian, right, that becomes right, because a lot of times you want to hold Baze back. So there's a lot of on paper really good things that once you get it into the deck with these guys, they don't quite gel up. And I think some of the things that these guys need is just the ability to get more stuff. So that would be really cool. But again, I'm having a lot of fun learning how to use these guys. They certainly have a lot of weaknesses. They're at least in the current meta, the way things are, they're not going to be tier 1. They can't outrace. They certainly can't really do anything against Mill, which is very, very strong right now. But I think they're one of the most fun. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is the best designed fun deck that ARH has made to date. I realize it's a big statement, but that's what I'm feeling today, and I reserve the right to change that in the future. So anyway, folks, let me know if you guys are also enjoying this. I know that there were a fair number of people who a couple of people who brought this to the release tournament. I know they didn't do specifically well, but I think there's a lot of work that we can collectively do to try and make these guys better. The problem is a lot of other people are putting work making other things better at the same time, and I think Baze Chirrut's probably going to lose that race because I just think they don't have the ceiling that a lot of the efficiency decks do. But taking the neat, rolling out a blue 3 and not having anything else and making them have to spend money to remove spend money in a card to remove a blue 3, that doesn't feel horrible, right? Does not feel horrible. So anyway, folks, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for having the discussion today. If nothing else, folks, keep embracing your inner guy love and go Commando.